Film finance, according to a recent survey I held on Facebook last year with a number of directors groups, is the number one problem that directors on a worldwide basis are suffering from. I know last year that when I made my movie Bad Romance, it would have been a lot easier if we'd had more money coming in from film financiers. And if you're here today on this very exciting interview, I'm sure that you'd also like to know how to finance a movie. And today, we are all blessed with a very special guest who's going to share some of his secrets and knowledge with us. Tom Malloy is our guest tonight in our very first special series designed to help new and independent filmmakers alike. I'm very excited to be doing tonight's call. Hello and welcome. I am Tim Bennett from AwesomeFM. It's a place where we talk and discuss film topics with some of the most awesome people in the world. But just before we get going, I just want to make sure that everyone can hear me. You can hear me, Tom?
Yes.
Sam, you can hear me, and Jane, you can hear me okay? So, ladies and gentlemen, it's 9:30, or just after 9:30, East Coast America. It's about 2:30 downtown New Delhi, and it's almost 10:30 here in Manila, where I'm living. And it's great to have you all here. If you have any questions for Tom as we go along, please type them into the chat box, and we'll open some of the lines and talk to some of you later on. So let's get going. Please welcome, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Tom Malloy. Hey, good to have you here, Tom.
Fantastic. What a huge round of applause. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, it's really fantastic having you here. And despite all the technical obstacles we had,
sure.
Where are you based right now?
Right now I'm on the East Coast in New York. I'm normally in Los Angeles.
Okay.
But for, I'd say, the next 3 to 6 months, I'll be on the East Coast.
Great. It's a long time since I've been to New York. Maybe, wow, 15 years.
It's changed since then.
I bet it has.
Yeah.
I came to America when it was very easy to get into the States.
Yeah. It's unfortunate the way it's been lately. It's been tougher and tougher.
Yeah. Okay, so Sam says he's from Syria. Wow, awesome, Syria. So we've got a worldwide international conference tonight, America, Syria, and the Philippines. So before we get going, Tom, let's have a quick overview of who you actually are and what you've been doing in the movie world. This is actually the first time that you and I have ever spoken. So I'm very interested in knowing what you've been doing. So maybe you could just give us a little background about yourself.
Sure. I started as an actor and still am in many ways. And, that was back in 98, I believe. I did a movie called Gravesend. I mean, it was one of the 4 lead actors, and we shot it on the streets of Brooklyn, New York. Mm-hmm. And, I mean, we would literally, we improv the whole movie. We would literally go up to a street corner, and there'd be a gang of thugs there, and we'd say, you guys want to shoot a fight scene? And they'd be like, yeah, okay. And a big fight would break out, and we'd capture it all on camera. And when we were done with that movie, we got Oliver Stone to put his name on it. It was in theaters.
Oh, cool.
And so, it was called Gravesend. And what would happen was, it wasn't the hit we thought it was going to be. And I did a couple things here and there and didn't, I was young. I didn't know really how to manage my career at that point. And eventually, to make a long story short, I just started trying to learn everything I could about the film business in every aspect. I mean, down to editing. I mean, I knew everything, as much information as I could. And started producing almost as a means to an end. Started kind of raising money, kind of created my own method out of desperation, out of saying, I became a really powerful writer. I've now sold 16 scripts. I'm in the Writers Guild. And in that, I kind of got behind one of my scripts and said, well, I want to make this, and I want to be in this role, and got a director. The first movie I did this with was called The Attic, and I got the director of Pet Sematary, and just by the strength of the script, and we made it. And it wasn't exactly what I wanted it to be, and it kind of that was a little disappointing, but it was a great lesson, and I raised all the money myself on that. And so it was like that started it. And I remember back then, that was 2005, I kind of told an agent, hey, I'm an actor, writer, producer. And she was like, you got to pick one of those. You can't be all three. And the joke was, now, if you would go to that same agent or another agent, they would recommend that. They would say, well, listen, you got to act, write, and produce. I mean, so I kind of was a trendsetter in a way in that regard. But, I mean, the rest of the story goes that I've now done 8 films. I've raised, over $20 million for private equity for films and for my projects and for other projects. And, I recently completed a stint as the head of film production for a company called New Films International. So, I mean, I was kind of in high demand as far as my money raising and putting films together, and I speak across the country. And the last thing I'd like to say is I wrote this book, Bankroll, that's become the kind of the gold standard as far as film financing. It's in bookstores everywhere, and you can get it on Amazon and all that. And that was really just all my techniques on raising money kind of put into a book.
That sounds awesome. I remember watching Pet Sematary many years ago, and I also believe you're in or part of anger management. Is that right?
Oh yeah. When that was one after Gravesend, just trying to do the only the acting thing. But the joke about that was the roles after Gravesend. My first role ever is a lead role in a film that Oliver Stone's got his name on, and then it goes from that to then it was a featured character on Law and Order SVU, and then a couple lines on Third Watch, and then I'm in the background in a couple movies, and so there was I feel like I went the actually opposite path, and by the time anger management, I think I played the right fielder for the New York Yankees, but it was it's just less and less and less, and I'm like, this is the exact opposite of the way I should be going. So I had to put a change to that.
Yeah, it's pretty cool to have Oliver Stone as part of your intro, no?
Oh, yeah. I mean, that really helped Gravesend, but down the road, as I did these other films, working with bigger people, I mean, Alphabet Killer, we had Rob Schmidt, who directed Wrong Turn, we had Timothy Hutton, Carrie Elways, Eliza Dushku, Michael Ironside. They were all the cast. I was the third biggest role in there. And in both The Attic, the joke about The Attic is it got bad reviews, but the only good reviews was my performance. And it was me and John Savage and Elizabeth Moss, who's the star of Mad Men. And I was the only one that got the good acting reviews, but the film itself got panned. But Alphabet Killer did much better, and especially on video, it made a killing. And then we went on. I did a movie called Love and Dancing, where I co-starred with Amy Smart, and Betty White was in the movie, and Billy Zane. And we had the director of She's All That, a guy named Rob Iskov, and yeah, I mean, it was things are going great, and I unfortunately with this last job got away from performing, and that's something everybody kind of has to have their own path, and I want to go back to acting and performing and comedy and things like that, but in the meantime I know all these techniques, so now I as far as raising money and helping people put their films together, so now I do conferences, I do consulting on films. People hire me to just come in and help them, shape their project so they can have a better chance of getting it going or a better direction. And that's really what I do kind of on the side is to keep myself alive in the film business.
And was this something that you wanted to do since you were a kid, or was it something that developed as you got older?
I wanted to be an actor since I was, let me think. I think since I was a sperm cell, I think I wanted to be an actor. And so that was always, it was always part of the film business for me. Now, producing
That's so funny.
And writing happened as osmosis. You know what I mean? Like you're just there and writing. Let me try to write a script. And then by about the 4th script, I was really, I started to pick up techniques and a skill level. And now it's like I'm really great writing scripts. Like I said, I've made a ton of money writing scripts. And producing was just, if you went back to Tom Malloy, the producer, one of the producers on The Attic. I had a couple of veteran producers with me. I was the kid who didn't know anything, and was afraid to even raise his hand, and now I'm the guy running the show, and, those people back then, they would all be asking me questions. And so I kind of, you get your learning curve, and my learning curve was quick, I guess. Or steep, I guess would be the way to say.
It's funny how the tables turn, how those people who say you can't do this are the ones that come back and say, can I be part of it?
Exactly, especially if it's a project just funded these days. You'll have, you'll have it. It's like the train is moving and everybody wants to try to jump on and get a piece of it, and catch on. Hey, can I cater it? Can I do that? I mean, like people come out of the woodwork. My niece does makeup. Can she get on it? And it's just
Wow.
it's fun.
Well, I wanted to make a movie when I was 15 years old. That was, I think, the first time that it sort of came into my head that I'd like to do that. But the cost of making movies, I grew up in England, mainly around London, the northeast area. And the cost of making movies in London was horrendous, and it scared me away. And then about 14 years ago, I moved out to Manila, where I still am now in the Philippines. And, the cost of everything out here are much lower. And I got involved doing special effects lasers out here. I've been doing lasers for about 21, 22 years now. And we did a project which brought me out to Manila. And, slowly I got the money together, and I realized that the opportunities out here were, very different. And last year we made 2 movies, and we're just about to release. In fact, the 12th of February, we're actually having our advanced screening of the first movie that I've co-produced. So I'm a virgin in this business, and this is why I wanted to help other people, was because I struggled so much with film finance, and I used my own money to finance the movie, and it's something I don't want to do again particularly. I really like the idea of using other people's money. And I thought that with the obstacles that I had putting the money together and the other directors that I see around me, I thought it would be a good idea to approach people like you who are experts to find out different ways of doing it and put all these together in one website so that we can help the industry generally. And that's where the series of interviews came from. Film finance has been a problem for a lot of my friends out here in the Philippines, and I did a survey on Facebook to about 20 or 30 different directors groups last year asking what their biggest problems were, and the 3 biggest problems were sent back to me, and number 1 by far was film finance. So I know this is going to help a lot of people. Was finance something that hindered you when you first started?
Well, yeah, and continues to hinder me and continues to hinder everybody, and you have to kind of get in that mentality of we're all in the same boat. It's like Clint Eastwood is, begging to get his films made and barking for his lunch. And I mean, that's just one example. I mean, Martin Scorsese, I mean, there's everybody, it is a business, and everybody has to understand that, and so we're all artists in a way and want to just, hey, I just want to make art, you know what I mean? But it's, at the end of the day, it's not the same as just buying a canvas and painting something, because if no one buys it, then you're okay. You haven't wasted that much money.
Yeah.
But in this case, the movies, you've wasted a lot of money.
Absolutely.
A lot of people's money. If you make something that's not a marketable product that could turn, a profit, and that's really one of the main cruxes of the problems. I mean, there's an old joke: how do you make a small fortune in independent film? And the answer is you invest a large fortune. And that's a horrible way to think about it. But at the end of the day, that's what's been proven, is that unless you kind of go in with that marketing mindset from the beginning, you could be in big trouble. But the key is. And let me say this to the people on the line that not knowing directors, producers, writers, actors, I say in my book, it's the golden rule. He or she who has the gold makes the rules, and there's no real ladder sometimes in the film business. You don't, go to this rung and then the next rung and the next rung. It may not work that way. You sometimes have to say, I'm here, I'm on this step. And if you have the money and you want to say, oh, well, I'm playing this role, or I'm directing, or I'm going to be, well, the writer's okay. The writer, as long as the script's good. But you're going to make this script if I have the money. So any of those things, it's if you can get that money, if you can get the financing, then you're in control and you can be steering the ship, so to speak.
Yeah, and I noticed that when I was involved in the movie. We've just made a movie called Bad Romance, which is the one that's coming out in February. And this really is like my first major step into movies. But because I had a checkbook in my hand, the doors opened and the trumpet started playing, and I really felt like I was in charge quite a lot.
Yeah.
And veteran directors were saying, "What do we do now?" And
Yeah.
I was like, "I don't know.
Yeah.
You tell me. I'm just writing checks."
Yeah. 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 It's
Okay,
you know
so
it.
go on.
It's tough. Yeah, no, I was going to say it's tough. I mean, in that regard, especially when you're using your own money, then you have to be really frugal. I did it once when I was real. I mean, that was just kind of experimenting back when I was still. This is 90, right after Gravesend. I was just kind of messing around or whatever. But yeah, no, I wouldn't recommend it, and it's scary. It's a lot scarier in that regard, because then you could really lose your shirt, so to speak. So